The U.S. has been a strong supporter of Kosovo and, frankly, of the entire region's movement toward Europe under Republican and Democratic administrations. And I anticipate that will continue. Our politics has always contained this string of isolationism or nativism or other things. That has never become the dominant thread of our politics, even if it is the dominant thread in news coverage. I think, you know, what we've begun to get at here as we head into the second round is picking at the issues that remain very difficult. And I just want to highlight a couple of themes as we go forward. In order to move forward, every state represented here needs to feel confidence from European leaders, to instill confidence in European leaders that they're willing to uphold the values and processes and kind of the informal practices of the European Union. Now, I'm just an observer in that process. It strikes me that it is very merit-based. It is also a matter of feeling that the culture is one that can accommodate the new members, so there's always a few types of decisions that are involved. I fear that often in the region we require too much interpretation by outsiders to figure out whether particular governments or leadership is ready to uphold the values or practices of the European Union. And so I think simplifying and driving home the points where there's clear agreement is very important. So just to take a couple of examples here where I hope that with whatever help's appropriate from the U.S. we can make some progress. I think one is always retaining a clear commitment to international law and to the processes by which the EU hopes to see enlargement in the region. So we've had a few good examples here. I do think our hosts have shown a model way of answering what's a very difficult political issue in response to the statement from the Montenegrin parliament. And my hope is that going forward, discussions about these issues of previous human rights abuses and genocide and other things, you asked the question at the beginning, you know, shouldn't we leave it to the academics? I think no. This is the heart of politics. It's about the identity of our societies, and it should be discussed among politicians. But I'd hope it's discussed with respect for the victims and with an acknowledgement when crimes are committed. So in talking to President Vučić about Srebrenica, I've praised him for his statements in 2015 that this was a horrible crime. I really appreciate that Prime Minister Plenković has regularly taken steps to talk about the actions that are called out in the Montenegrin resolution. And I think that makes the society a healthier society. And I hope that these discussions continue on that basis going forward. And I'd note in this regard that, you know, the U.S. has said consistently, as the EU has, that the crimes committed in September 2023 need to be punished. We expect and believe we've been promised that Mr. Radojcic will go through the full process of the law in Serbia. Now, it is a very good thing that he seems no longer to be as active in northern Kosovo as he was. We see that that has some positive benefits, but he continues to be, he's been indicted, and we expect the process to be finished. That's part of the commitment to the rule of law. But there are broader points that we have to address as well, and I'll just note a couple, and then I have one small legalistic footnote. That what I would hope to see is, and I'll just say, to continue just with Serbia, we've seen some very positive steps, and you've seen a lot of it publicly recently, with the commitment to support of Ukraine, with the commitment to supporting Europe's energy transition in moving forward with the lithium deal, but also in and around Kosovo, the statement of the Prime Minister that they're prepared to negotiate and to compromise is a significant statement because it changes the rhetoric. Having divisive, harsh rhetoric rhetoric makes it much more difficult for politics to proceed as normal. And what we've seen on the ground is the removal of a senior Serbian government official from a position in which he did a great deal of damage to relations between Serbia and Kosovo. The person's back in government, but not in the position to directly influence this. And in these matters, it is very helpful. Now, it would be more confidence instilling to also see the rhetoric match the steps that have been taken to normalize relations with Kosovo. At the same time, we would like to see less talking, unless there's a clear way to revise the governing arrangements in Bosnia. I think we should talk about how to help them work. And I think there should be some revisions of Dayton. I've always favored that if they're negotiated among the parties, or if it's necessary to come in compliance with European law. And as we begin this phase of Bosnia's European path, I think we'll have the opportunity to see what changes may be necessary without it becoming a political issue in different constituencies. The final point I'll make, and is also with regard to the actions taken by the government of Kosovo, we want to see it in the Council of Europe. We want to see it as a fully recognized operating member of the UN and the UN system, and the U.S. will work toward that end. It would help to have clear policies that indicate that every citizen of Kosovo has full rights. So the very good work that Miroslav Lajčák and his team have done to provide for payments of pensions and other items, I think that should be implemented. I think the possible agreement that would have Kosovo represent itself in SEFTA in return for securing an open border, a secure open border, should be implemented very quickly. And I think these kinds of steps, along with steps that maybe all the governments have to take to make sure that the Serbs of northern Kosovo are fully represented, that they participate in the governing institutions, but also that there's an opportunity for them to have an election that provides mayors that actually represent them. I think all of these things would instill more confidence that we're prepared to move forward. So I guess I'm asking for a little less ambiguity about European commitments and international law, and a little more perhaps softness or moderation in the rhetoric on the points that divide us. And that may be overly optimistic. My legalistic point, back to the point about President Vučić and President Aliyev. As I mentioned, I've just come from seeing President Aliyev again. He has always been very clear to say that he exhibited strategic patience, but his goal is to take only the territory that is internationally recognized without dispute as belonging to Azerbaijan. And so if that's the practice that's under reference, that's a very different reading of President Vučić's comments than perhaps you indicated. And we will see, but I think we should be clear that the reference point is one that would say no movement into Bosnia, no movement into northern Kosovo. And I think that's consistent with the practices I've seen over recent months, and we want the rhetoric and the practice to come together as we work forward together.